Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. Now, what really happened in this fight? A huge upset, the biggest upset of the night, where Glover finally got the championship after so many years on top, chasing the belt. At a young 42 years old, the second oldest fighter to ever win a championship, Glover has finally accomplished what he's been chasing this entire time, and we couldn't be more happy about it. But at the same time, man, it wasn't necessarily an easy fight. He made short work of Jan Blachowicz, but it wasn't without getting caught here and here. He got hit by so many jabs, almost every single jab landed. The leg kick worked as well. It was not getting checked, but the pressure from Glover was taking away any opportunity for Jan to land these leg kicks, other than when Jan caught him with combinations. And Jan threw a lot of combos, all different kinds, from uppercuts up high to going to the body instead, and they were all working. It didn't really matter what punches he was throwing. When he was throwing, they were landing, and that's mostly because Glover doesn't have fast head movement. He has a rather easily patterned head movement for opponents to catch him, and uppercuts generally deemed to be his biggest weakness, and Jan was catching him with a few of them. But like I said, when Jan did catch Glover, he wouldn't pressure him afterward, and there was a lot of space for him to do so. He was constantly backing away from Glover, giving him so much respect in the fight, and his corner kept telling him to stop backing away. But he just kept moving back, even though he had success with his offense. Jan's corner was telling him to keep his back off the cage, because that's all Glover needed in this fight. He needed Jan on the cage. And even though Jan showed some moments where he noticed where he was aware of where he was in the cage, he would try to rotate out and escape. But after getting shook up by the left hook, Glover threw that same combination again, right straight looping left hook, and Jan backed up to the cage, and that's where Glover was able to shoot him for the double leg takedown. As Jan looked like he attempted to get out of there, he ducked under the right straight and tried to counter with a right hook of his own and tried to move out that direction, but Glover shot in way too quickly. Pressure was everything for Glover and allowed him to win this fight. And there was something off about Jan's left hook in this fight. It's his signature punch. It's like his most confident punch to throw, offensively or defensively. He was throwing like a slapping left hook almost every single time, and it was landing with like the palm of his hand or even the wrist and forearm. He was landing it, but was always landing with like the palm of his hand. Very strange. And there was another exchange in the fight where they both threw left hooks at each other at the same time, and there was a clear difference in form. Glover had the better technique, not only with the left hook, but drawing his right hand back. They both threw a right hand at each other. Jan threw an uppercut, he had it well timed, but the accuracy was off. He could have landed this beautifully. And Glover threw the right cross, which is going to go right into the combination he kept throwing the whole fight. Right cross, looping left hook. When they both threw the right hand, they both retracted, but Jan brought it down as Glover brought his right hand back up to his head to guard the punch. They both threw a left hook at the same time, and Jan landed with the palm of his hand again. But Glover landed all fists to the side of the head and rocked Jan for it. Rarely would I ever say that Jan would be lacking in the form or technical department in his fights, especially in the light heavyweight division. He said in the post-fight interview there was something wrong. He said he felt like he had no power. It seemed like he didn't know why he performed the way he did. The majority of Jan's success was really relied on Glover's lack of head movement or his slowness in the fight, and some good defense against the takedown. Really anticipating the pressure from Glover to the point where Glover was throwing that same combination, right straight looping left hook, and Jan wanted no part of Glover's hands. He was giving too much respect to Glover's hands, in my opinion. Specifically from a distance. In close range, Glover is dangerous, but from a distance, Glover is pretty slow to get in, and his punches are generally looping. He's not really setting things off of his jab or feints, so what he's meaning to throw is clearly in the open. But Jan went into like DEFCON 1 defense, clearing the field, didn't want anything to do with the hands, and moving his back to the cage. That is where everything went right for Glover. His pressure was working, getting Jan to move back in this manner so he can shoot on that double leg, turn into a single leg once he was able to drive Jan to the cage. The first takedown he was able to get by surely using his old man strength to pick up Jan and slam him on his side, where Jan was actually defending pretty nicely. Two other takedowns were defended very well by Jan. One of the takedowns from Glover was actually extremely well timed. He went under Jan's jab for the single leg. It was one of the only two times he was able to get off the center line and not get caught by it, and Jan was able to simply slip out of it and pull away. One scary thing about this was, notice that Jan's ankles are wrapped up. This creates friction for Glover to hold on to the ankle, but Jan was still able to get away. But what happens? He backs up to the cage afterward. And another time, he was able to draw in double underhooks and keep the fight in the clinch. Jan's takedown defense for the majority of the fight was massively improved. For those who don't know, Jan was always known in the past to have poor takedown defense. For an example, you could watch the first Corey Anderson fight or the Alexander Gustafsson fight, taken down multiple times easily by his opponent. For him now, the stuff, half of Glover's takedowns is actually pretty impressive, but it was the last takedown attempt where Jan made a huge error that costed him the fight. Glover went down for a double leg, and then he focused on a single on Jan's right side. Jan went in for a Kimura lock. Now, I know he was doing this in order to pry open the hands. And with that grip, Teixeira was able to pull the leg out from under him as it looked like Jan wants to attack that Kimura. He went for it, but Glover stepped over and completely negated the Kimura, made it dead. Jan was trying all he can to stop Glover from passing over him, but Glover's passes are some of the best in the UFC. But it was kind of surprising that Jan didn't really want to settle into his guard. He was just trying to keep Glover away by pushing him away at the hips, even knee shielding, but this knee shield allowed Glover to step over into full mount. And from there, it looked like Jan just kind of panicked because immediately he gives up his back, gives up his neck, gets easily flattened out, barely fights the hands, and taps to the rear naked choke. I'm not even kidding. 1 second in. The choke was in for exactly 1 second, and Jan tapped with a quickness. This was the best win of Teixeira's entire career, and he did it at 42 years old. That's so crazy. It didn't really matter against the young or the old. Glover went on a win streak that he's never accomplished his entire career, beating young fighters like Ian Cutelaba and Nikita Krylov, to beating veterans like Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and even world-class fighters like Jan Blachowicz. This is the best Glover's ever been in his entire career, and it's crazy at what age these fighters reach their prime. Glover is going to be a perfect example for fighters reaching their prime later in their careers. What is next? Glover versus Jiri Prochazka is the only fight that makes sense at the moment. I know Magomed Ankalaev also won tonight, but I would really like him to fight Alexander Rakic in order to determine who is the #1 contender. I know Anthony Smith wants to avenge his loss against Rakic, but I personally would like to see Smith versus Santos. That fight I think makes a little bit more sense right now with everything that's going on in the light heavyweight division. And those fights I think are a lot more fun. Rakic versus Ankalaev is one of the most technical fights in the entire light heavyweight division. Jiri versus Glover is going to be explosive. And Santos versus Smith, that's going to be super fun as well. And as for Jan Blachowicz, man, I guess he's going to have to wait out for some of these fights to end because besides the fighters that are going to be put together, he has beat everybody else pretty much. Or they're just too low in the rankings. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and if you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.